Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to another round of coffee and questions. And what's today's topic? Well, what I did is I went ahead and I bought online probably a month or more ago. I bought a new grease gun. I got tired of using, I don't know if it was from Harbor Freight or whatever. It leaked all over. It's junk. I didn't really like using it. So I came across and I read some reviews online and I decided to buy the Lucas grease gun right here. It's a nice heavy duty grease gun. It's got a nice pistol grip on it. Nice red color. It's kind of like an anodized aluminum. Well, it is aluminum. Got a nice grip down here to it. Got a cap up here. Flexible hose. It also comes with a straight one. Anyway, I love this grease gun. I wish I would have gotten it a long time ago. It doesn't leak. I haven't had any problems with it. But I've been using it and there are some tips and tricks. And the reason why I bought this, I have a friend who's a mechanic and they have, you know, those pneumatic grease guns in his shop. But he also has these. And I asked him about it and, you know, he gave me some tips and tricks on using these. So it's hot out here in the garage. I'm going to switch over. I will put up the ads off of Amazon, you know, where I got mine. We'll have a discussion about them and I'll tell you some thoughts from both him as a mechanic and me as just a hobbyist. But I'm glad I got this. This thing has worked out really well for me. And I also use Lucas brand grease, and I'll explain to you why. Not all grease is the same. Okay, I'll be with you in just a sec. I'll meet you inside where it's cooler. Okay, so like I said, I bought the Lucas Heavy Duty Pistol Grip Aluminum Grease Gun. And you can see it's got 113 reviews and it's got, you know, high ratings between, if you look at the 4 and 5 stars. A lot of this was the reason why I went ahead and bought it. Working pressure, 3,600 PSI, maximum 6,000. Lightweight, yeah, it is. It is lightweight. That's what I like about it. It's not heavy. It's got that anodized aluminum barrel like it says. Die-cast head, includes 12-inch heavy-duty triple reinforced flexible hose, 5 3/8 inch grease pipe and coupler. It'll hold any standard size grease tube, that I can tell you. Heavy duty aluminum grip, easy to handle. It's nice to handle because it's got, you know, that black gripping down there at the bottom. So, I mean, you've got something to hold on to. So it does feel comfortable. Uses standard 14-ounce cartridges. Ideal applications, automotive, agricultural, marine, trailers, industrial. So, I went ahead, like I said, I bought it. And so I started reading through things and I went down. A friend of mine's a mechanic and I asked him about it because he's the one that actually pushed me to buy, I mean, a good grease gun. Spend the money, get a good one. Stop buying, you know, the cheapies, because I was complaining to him that, you know, the one that I had, which I eventually went ahead and just threw it out, it leaked. It was a son of a gun to get primed. I mean, eventually, yeah, I could get it primed and it would work. But it leaked, it was a mess. I mean, it just, you know, grease guns to me were just something that was a pain in the butt, but was a necessity. So, I mean, I talked to him and then I compiled some stuff, you know, off of the reading online. I thought I would share it with everybody. So let me switch over and I'll answer some questions and we'll go through talking about this Lucas grease gun, which I think is a damn good buy, really. Do I have trouble after I put a new grease cartridge in it? You know, getting it to pump. No, there's a valve over here you'll see on top. You can push down, it's like an air vent, and then you just pull this the pistol grip handle a bunch of times and then I let it go and it just primes it. So I haven't had a problem with it. I saw some complaints online where people had problems priming it, but I think if you just spend the time to learn how to do it, and you understand that that's what that spring-loaded little button is up at the top, you know, is like I said, it's like an air vent release. You just pull it a bunch of times, let it go, and then all of a sudden the grease starts coming out the tube. So, no, it wasn't really that big of a deal to me, to be honest with you. There's a place I was reading, it's called Pell Industrial. They make a lot of the components or most of this grease gun for Lucas. There's a technical support number if anybody ever has any trouble. I'll put it across the bottom of the screen here in just a sec for you. And if you decide to buy one, or if you run into problems, you can always call them. I'm told, from the reading, these people are fantastic about answering the phone and answering your questions and trying to make things right for you. So, I mean, that's good to know. So it's another plus for the quality of the product. They stand behind it. A lot of people on here were complaining that there were leaks up and around, different parts of this. When they ship this to you, they're shipping it to you with a little cheapy kind of a wrench and Teflon tape. If you take all of the fittings off of this that screw into this canister and just wrap them with Teflon tape, which is what I did because I did read the instructions. I understand a lot of people don't. But if you do that on the top of this canister and you put this thing back together, I've had absolutely no leaks. So I think what some of the criticism comes from is people not reading. And I understand, we all do that. We all throw the directions out. And they aren't the best directions in the world because the printing is very, very small. So I had to get a pair of my reading glasses out. They're 2.5 times, but I did read it. And if you use the Teflon tape and the little wrench, you're home free. It won't leak at all. So I haven't had that issue once I did what I'm saying. So this mechanic friend of mine, when we were talking, what he did, and I also read online, a lot of people will change the tubing on this from the 12-inch hose that comes with it to a 24-inch hose. You can get those off of Amazon. I'll try to remember to drop the link below if that's what you choose to do. And it's much easier to reach into those hard-to-reach places on an automobile with that longer, flexible tubing. So, he decided to go that route. And he told me, this grease gun creates great pressure. And if you have a stubborn, Zert fitting that's not accepting the grease the way that it should, sometimes that extra pressure helps free it. So, he considered that to be an added perk too, and told me, really, I should think about getting this and not wasting my money on those cheap, inexpensive ones. So I decided to go this route, and I'm glad that I did. Now, the other thing in conversation that we talked about, sorry, I got interrupted. The other thing we're talking about is he'll use the pneumatic grease gun that hangs overhead in the shop, and he replaced one of the fittings on the top of this grease gun with a Zert fitting, and he just refills it each time. They're using Mobil 1, but like he said, he keeps a good supply of Lucas brand cartridge grease there because it is a better grease. It is better than Mobil 1. So, along with this, when I bought it, I also bought tubes of the Lucas brand grease, and I'll show you those, and we'll talk about those in a minute. But I thought that was a good idea. If you just have them laying around the shop, you could just refill it with a Zert fitting. It's pretty clever, really. Yeah, he just replaced the fill port, is what I was trying to say, with the Zert fitting, and then just fills it back up. Now, on his, he also told me he put a swivel connector on it, so it's able to bend much easier in a lot of quirky places. Now, that's not something I've done. He's a mechanic. I'm not. I'm just a home hobbyist, but you can get, that swivel, fitting or whatever off online too, or probably at any hardware store. So that was another good tip. He just kind of modified it to make it easier on him in what he does for a living. So for me, I think the grease gun, it's loaded with quality, durability. It is very well built. It's got a nice finish to it. It's lightweight. Do what I said earlier, you won't have any leaks with it. All the way around, I think that this is a good investment. At least it is for me. I'm glad that I bought it. One of the complaints on here was sometimes when you put this on a fitting, you got trouble getting it back off. Now, I read on here another little trick that somebody, had mentioned is if you tilt it slightly side to side, or to one side, and then you spin it just a little bit, it comes right off. Something I never thought about doing. Now, I have not had trouble removing this from any fitting, on any of my machinery out in the garage. So, but I guess other people have, and he's just saying just tilt it, spin it just a tad, and as you're pulling it, it comes right off. Never thought about it really. Another thing that I read online, as well as what the friend of mine told me, when you're done using these, always store it in a horizontal position, and then that way you're assured there's not going to be any leaks or any trouble with anything, and it's just a good habit to get into. So all the way around, I mean, I really like this gun. I'm really glad that I bought it. Now I want to switch over and let's talk about the Lucas brand grease that I bought. And I'll make some remarks about that and some of the research that I did. Okay, so I brought 3 of these, and I'm glad that I did. It's Lucas Oil, 14.5 ounce. There's a 10301 heavy duty grease, 14.5 ounce. 4.5, almost 5 stars with this. So I read through everything on here, and again, I kind of bounced off my friend's advice, who's a mechanic. He said for a lot of the important stuff in the shop, they always use Lucas brand now. They don't use that Mobil 1 anymore, which is very common, I guess, in a lot of garages and shops. Meaning that the Lucas, this extra, heavy duty grease here, he feels is all the way around just a much better product. So lasts 4 times longer than regular grease, waterproof, all temperature stable, exceeds lube for life specifications, ultimate grease for high-speed bearings. I have a huge bandsaw, Davis and Wells, and I got to grease the hell out of it every now and then. So I wanted a good quality grease. I didn't want just some generic grease. So that was one of my primary reasons with going with the Lucas brand, as well as the mechanic, who's a friend of mine that told me, hey, look, you got to try this stuff. It's really the same cost. It may be just a little bit more, but it's fantastic grease. Well, to me, grease was grease, but I went ahead because I was ordering the gun and I ordered the grease along with it. So one of the quirky questions is, what color is it? It's a bluish green. It's almost like the color of the canisters you see here in the picture, but that's the color. The question is it safe for bearings that are housed in plastic? Yes. It won't harm the plastic. I asked a friend of mine, like I said, a mechanic, all these questions. It won't. He uses it all the time on those kinds of things. It won't hurt rubber either. Is it better than lithium? Yes. That's what I'm told. It's far better than lithium. How well does it handle heat temperature? Well, in the specifications, it'll say resists melting up to 560 degrees. Another reason I bought it is I do a lot of these trailer flips, and I want a good grease, on these trailers, because I live out in the desert cities, and we all know how hot it gets out here, in the desert area. And the temperatures can climb 120 plus you got, the engine running in a vehicle, or you're using the trailer or anything like that. Like he said, it doesn't cost that much more, and it's incredibly good grease. So yeah, it has a very high, point where you don't need to worry about it thinning out or melting, if that's what you're wondering. Will it go into a pneumatic grease gun? Yeah, anything that'll fit these kind of tubes, yes. Is it good on boat trailer bearings? Yeah, it is. Actually, I use it on my utility trailers, and I've used it on my boat trailer too. It works just as well on ball joints. Now somebody made a comment, in here that I was reading about, that said, like, when you put this into your grease gun, you can add just a little bit of motor oil, like into the top of it. Now, I'm not sure why you do that. If anybody knows why you would do something like that, drop it in the comment below. I thought it was kind of an oddball thing. And I kept looking at it, and I kept reading the comment. I thought, I don't know why you do that. It doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, I thought I'd throw it in. Is it possible when you run out just to refill the tube? Well, you can. I don't know why. It's not what I would do. I just chuck it, and I just put another canister, of the Lucas, grease into it. I wouldn't try to refill it. Playing with grease is a messy ass job, I think. All over the place, and all that. So the cleaner I can keep things, I put it on there, and I pump the zert fitting up to where I want, or I can pack, in and around the trailer axles and stuff with it, but I wear gloves. Grease is just kind of a messy thing, so I wouldn't even try to refill the tubes. I would just replace them. You do like that mechanic friend of mine said, and you have a shop with this pneumatic overhead, you could put the zert fitting on it and then go ahead and refill your, your hand grease gun, but you're not using the Lucas heavy duty grease either. So I don't know. Up to you. Is it okay to line gaskets and O-rings with this kind of grease? Yeah, it's not going to hurt it. A friend of mine, like I said, that works on cars, he uses it all the time for those things. So you shouldn't have a problem with that. How about things on an automobile that are electrical connections? No. This stuff is meant, for bearings and things like that. It's not meant for electrical. You need dielectric grease. I mean, I would tell you do a web search or look on Amazon and look for dielectric grease, and that's what you want if you want to put some kind of grease on electrical connections and stuff. You don't want to use this for that. Is it okay to use this with air impact tools? Yes. I've used them out in my garage on a couple of air impact tools. It doesn't hurt anything. It seems to stand up and work fine. How about on tie rods and U-joints? Yeah, you can use it on anything on an automobile practically, except for the electrical. But you won't have any problem with tie rods and U-joints. You can use this grease on it. Well, I don't know. I think all the way around, it's great. I mean, you know, if the fact that it's water resistant or waterproof. I mean, it resists any kind of water washing it away or messing with it. That's why it's so good on boat trailers and the axles. And the other thing that, like I say, I keep saying with that 560-degree drop point and living out here in, like I said, the desert cities, I mean, to me, it's just a little bit of an added benefit, I mean, of wanting to use this grease. I don't know. I think price-wise, I mean, it depends on what you want to buy. It's either going to be equal to in price. Is it just as good? I think it's better. That's my opinion. I've been using it now, you know, for a little while. I was using the Lucas brand, you know, heavy-duty grease for a longer period of time than I was before I got the grease gun. I really like the grease. I've always used it. Getting the grease gun, I mean, stood to kind of make sense. I just put it off because I never wanted to spend, you know, the money really and buy a more expensive, you know, grease gun. I mean, to me, grease gun's a grease gun. As long as it pumps the grease, who gives a damn? And then I got tired of messing with these junky ones. And like I said, I was sitting around talking with a friend of mine. I mean, he kind of convinced me, you got to try this at least once, try it, go this route. And I'm glad that I did. I mean, this thing has no leaks. It stands up to everything that I've been using it on since I've got it. It works great. So I think for a mechanic shop or a home hobbyist or anybody, spend the extra money, get yourself a much higher quality name brand tool. I think Lucas should be, you know, glad that they made this product. They made a really fine tool, grease gun. All right, folks, I'm the Home Handyman. I hope you click subscribe. I hope you follow me. If you know something better out there, drop it in the comment below. I mean, if you want to consider buying one, I'll leave the links below. If you already have one, but you like to buy replacement grease cartridges, I would encourage it at least one time for the $4 and some odd cents. Try one tube of it. I think after you use a tube of this stuff, you won't go back to the other, and it is far better than Mobil 1. So that's my advice. You know, for $4, give it a try. You can always let me know what you think. You folks have a great weekend. I'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.